Welcome to Celtic State of Mind. I'm John Dykes, and once again I'm joined by Jim Simonetti, where we'll be speaking to Mark Wilson. Welcome to the show, Mark.
Thanks for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. We're in the confines of the Jimmy Johnstone Academy, and I know that as a youngster you were a big Jinky fan. Take us back to your memories watching that old Jimmy Johnstone video.
Well, when I was younger for Christmas, before that, my uncle, a mad Celtic fan, had all the old Celtic videos, the compilation videos, and I used to go under his video and his video cassette holder under the TV and play them all. And then one Christmas, I woke up and had a Jinky video, the Jinky video that came out. I think everybody my age that was a Celtic fan had it, and it was just one of these you used to watch constantly every day after school. And probably people are listening to this thinking, well, didn't really reflect your skills when you played. But at that time you went down the park and you try to copy some of the things that he did as a young boy. It was not far away from me, obviously, and just along the Roanview Park. I was in Broomhouse, and just wanted to kind of emulate that technique I had. I seen myself as a right midfielder at that time when I was younger, and I just loved watching it constantly, and all the stories, and coming in here and seeing the pictures in here, brings back so much of that. And just unfortunately for me, I signed for Celtic just when Jimmy passed, and I think one of the first big events at Celtic for me was his funeral. And that was quite strange how that worked out. I'd grown up watching his video so much and idolising this guy so much, and then when I finally get to Celtic, it's the time he unfortunately passed away.
That's right, because you came in the January, didn't you? Mm-hmm. So just a couple of months before Jimmy passed away. I mean, see, you're talking there about playing right mid. When did you become a defender? Was that later on in your career, or as a school kid?
No, it was later on. So I went from right mid to up front, and like you do as a boys' club player, it's very difficult to find your position when you're that young. And I think managers just chop and change you to find out where you fit in. And I eventually slotted into a centre midfield position. And then that went through until I was into my youth development contract at Dundee United. And when I went apprentice there, just by chance somebody gets injured, I get put to right back. I was at the time, and it was Terry Butcher, who was the youth coach at Dundee United at that time. He puts us to right back, and I kind of just stuck that out. So it was sort of like a default position. I kept falling back, but I would always revert back to centre mid sometimes. And even when I was playing in Dundee United's first team, when I broke through, I was playing centre midfield sometimes centre half, and right back. So I've always been kind of a utility player, if you like. Not a great tag that people like getting put with, but I get you playing games when there's gaps in the team.
And as a manager now, that's the type of player you love, eh? I
would love 11 utility players just now at Brecon, but I mean, they're so valuable, these guys, when they're often the guys you can rely upon. And I'm speaking from a manager or a coach point of view. The guys that probably aren't the stars of the team or the standouts, but a guy who you could ask, listen, can you do this job for me? Can you play this position? And he'll give 100%. And for a manager and a coach, it's a terrific tool to have.
Mm-hmm. You signed for Dundee United, who, for generations were producing some tremendous young talent, Mark. But you did have interest from down south when you signed for United. What was the deciding factor in you going up to Dundee?
Well, there's a guy at Dundee United, the chief scout called Graham Livingston, who had brought through a lot of these good players that you were chatting about. Billy McKinlay and Duncan Ferguson's, and even the group that was ahead of me, Stephen Thompson, Jim Patterson, all the guys who were Craigies and guys who were playing the first team that I was looking at. So I knew if I went there and I worked as hard as I could, then I would get a chance to play in Dundee United's first team. The offers I had from down south, I was in at Blackburn. Manchester City had made me a firm offer that was, a great offer for a kid of 15, and an offer to relocate my parents down there. And I just felt at the time that it wasn't for the money. It obviously wasn't for the money. I just thought I want to play first team football as soon as possible, and I felt my best chance of that was Dundee United, and that's why I went there. I don't regret it to this day. Maybe if I went to Man City, I don't know, maybe with the facilities down there, and they had 10 pitches, training pitches, big gym, maybe I would have became a better player. I don't know, maybe I would have just fell away. But but I certainly don't regret going to Dundee United.
No, I mean, obviously when you look at the career that you had and the success that we're going to be talking about at Celtic Park particularly, it would be hard to have regrets. I think when you think of Man City, you look at the Man City of the day, don't you, of today, and you think, wow, with all the riches and, you know, competing at the top levels. But one of the players I'm going to ask you about later on, it's the Andy Robertson thing as well. You know, there's moments where he's at Celtic and Celtic fans think, oh, I wish he had made it. But he had to go away to make it, you know. So
that's the thing. There's so many paths footballers take to get to the final outcome of what you see now. There's loads of them. Andy Robertson's obviously the most extreme that I've ever heard of. But even your run-of-the-mill football player, very rarely do they have a story that they go to the one team they want to go to and build up all the way through. That's rare. Maybe Sean Maloney or somebody like that's a wee bit different, but quite often you have to take a step back to go a couple forward in this game.
You've mentioned there about this Jimmy Johnson video, which, you know, I had the kind of same experience with that, Mark. Used to get the videos every other Christmas. Kids will be thinking, videos?
I know.
What on earth is that? You know,
I remember videos very well, used to. So behave yourselves.
But another thing that I always find interesting about young players around about that time is you're basically wanting to sign and start playing first team football, but you were a Celtic fan, you were going to the games. As a kid, what's the finest memories of standing up in that north, or sitting up in that north stand watching Celtic?
Oh, my best memory out there, it's got to be when the Rangers game, 5-1 game, where Lubo Moravcik came on the scene. I mean, for Celtic fans, or younger Celtic fans listening to us just now, they'll probably not be aware of how often Rangers beat Celtic and what the kind of heartache it was for young fans, well, old fans as well, but young fans, because it meant so much. I was surrounded by Rangers fans in my street, and they weren't slow and telling us how bad Celtic were and Rangers were going through that 9 in a row. And then turning up to the game, you almost turned up just in hope, you know, that they would beat Rangers at that time. So when I see Lubo Moravcik, never heard of the guy before, and he puts on a performance like that, that's got to be one of the best for me, sitting watching that. I couldn't believe my eyes, you know. And, you know, going on later on to meet these guys like Larson and Lubo. I played in a charity game with him not so long ago, you know, so that's an amazing experience. Come back to thinking, you know, I'm sitting in the stand watching him all the years ago is one of my finest memories in that stadium, to actually meeting him and having represented Celtic as well.
So you actually played in one of the charity games with Lubo?
Played in Chris Doolan's testimonial, it was for Partick Thistle, and, you know, a squad of us ex-Celtic players got flung together. You know, there was a good few names in there, and Lubo was playing, and it was just Lubo, you know, walking about, but give him the ball any time, and, you know, the fans come out to see him. It was incredible to say you've actually played with him.
It's incredible for a fan to think about you being at the game watching him, but then the way that your career's gone, you've ended up playing alongside him. Because, I mean, you went to a lot of the games, even in the 90s. You watched Celtic v Cologne, the 3-0 game, didn't you?
Listen, I went to the mall. My dad's originally from Dundee, and he moved to Glasgow when he was 18. But funny enough, all his family were Dundee United fans, and it was only him out of his family as a young kid that was a Celtic fan. So he moves to Glasgow, and my uncles who on my mum's side, you know, all and brothers and sisters and things are all Celtic fans. So obviously I got brought up watching these videos. My dad was very good in terms of taking me to games and European games when he could. I mean, he took us to you know, Old Firm games when I was, I mean, really young. I think maybe